Hello, my name is Piers Thurston and I'm a director at Making Change Work. And in this short video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do and what's different about our approach to change. So if we understand the nature of change, it's probably fair to say that we've all experienced, whether that be work or in personal life, change that's been effortless and easy and sustainable and almost takes its own momentum. And on the other hand, we've all experienced change that feels slow and sticky, uphill. It doesn't even necessarily realize the full benefit that you need to realize once you've got there. Now, what's going on behind this is the question we ask. And when we're looking at change, we make a distinction. We describe what we call in front of the eye change and behind the eye change. Now, in front of the eye change is the outputs and the outcomes of the change that you need for your organization to be successful. It's the things that happens to the systems, the processes, the structures, the organizational design, the skills, competence and behaviors of the people that you need in order to deliver that strategy change or whatever it is you need for an effective, productive organization. Now, once organizations focus on this, it can be the case that sometimes that change can become outside in. They understand what they need to be, and then they will apply incentives or even pressure to enable that change to happen, even to make sure there's compliance to that change. And that requires maintenance and effective managing of that change to the organization and to the people in the organization. Now, let's make a distinction between that and what we're calling behind the eye change. This is actually working at the human level. This is working at the individuals collectively in the organization, and it's about the change that happens inside them. It's a shift in their mindset and in their resourcefulness and therefore their openness and capability to deliver and invent that change. And this is more of an inside-out way of understanding change, where people not only accept the change, but actually they start to create it, invent it, and self-perpetuate it. Now, organizations do understand the difference between these two things, even if they don't necessarily use our language. But it's probably fair to say, and this would be a question for you to have a look at in your own organization, is where do you focus? Because most organizations in our experience will focus on what they want the change to be, in front of the eye change, the outcomes and the outputs, and then they will try and do something to enable the behind the eye change. And at worst, that's lip service, and at best, that is some events around consultation or engagement or getting people to champion the change. But for our understanding, there is a lack of understanding in what people need to do for effective behind the eye change. Now, ideally, in a very utopian world, organizations would just start with behind the eye change, and then the result of that would be the in front of the eye. But we understand in the practical world that we live in that it might need to be that there is some change that is designed at the top of the organization and needs to be rolled out through the organization. So there could be a hybrid practically between the focus of the in front of the eye change and the behind the eye change. But there needs to be a lot more focus on the behind the eye change in order to make this change really work. Now that does beg a question. The question is, how do you enable effective behind the eye change and all the benefits that that brings? Well, what we do is we work with people at an individual and human level. We work with people to help them have their own understanding of a hidden psychological variable that is sitting beneath everything we think, feel and do in any moment in our lives, and of course that includes work. And by working at this level, we enable that true, sustainable, enduring behind the eye change. Now, this thing I'm talking about here, I'm not going to have a chance to go in full detail in this video about what it is, but it is something that affects how we see absolutely everything, yet it's usually invisible to us. And When you take the combination about something that affects everything, yet is usually invisible, and most of us are misunderstanding it, caught in an illusion to its outside in nature, you get a very powerful combination of something that really does need to be addressed, which is being overlooked or misunderstood in most organizations. We call this thing quality of mind. Now, that's just a phrase. And it's the understanding of quality of mind that makes the true difference. So if we look at what a lot of organizations are up to, they're looking to get people to behave and perform differently. So they will look at the skills and competencies and knowledge that that person needs. And also a lot of organizations will go a little deeper than that and think, well, actually, there's a human being behind that. There's some personality, there's their type, there's their filters, their how they see the world, and some assessments or some psychometrics or some coaching might help them work through and around that. Now, we're saying that there's something beneath that, and that's where quality of mind comes in. It sits underneath, and it is a variable beneath someone's personality, skills, and knowledge. And it's actually what is running the show in a lot of the times, and that's why people with a high degree of technical knowledge can not always be performing to that. It's why you can get 10 bright people in a room in a meeting, and at the end of 2 hours you're no further forward. It's why things feel like they are hard work and uphill and sticky. It's because of this invisible element that is at play with all of us. And once we understand that differently, we have a completely different relationship to it, and our resourcefulness increases. Now, this change is a little bit like if we used a metaphor about changing the operating system or the firmware on your computer or your tablet. And often you'll find you'll wake up in the morning and your computer or your iPad is saying to you there's been a firmware update or an operating system update. Now, what happens with that is that everything you've got on that system works better already. So your existing software and apps work a little bit more smoothly, they're less buggy. But even more importantly, what happens, it allows you to download new software, new apps. It increases the capability of the whole system you've got. So you're open to new levels of potential. And this metaphor is akin to what we're working with at Quality of Mind. It enables people to access their existing resources and competencies much more consistently and effectively, but it also enables them to be open to new levels of meaning and understanding and creativity, possibility, clarity, flow, resilience, all the things an organization needs at leadership level, but actually throughout the whole organization, particularly in times of change. So coming back to what we're looking at here, we're looking at getting the change to be more behind the eye than in front of the eye, or enabling that behind the eye change to enhance the effects of the in front of the eye change. Because behind the eye change is non-sequential, it's non-linear. You get massive shifts in things, and they are more enduring, they're more sustainable, they're more permanent, and they're pervasive as they ripple out. So the change doesn't just happen necessarily in the area you've been focusing on, you actually find changes happening in areas you haven't looked at yet, but because the individuals are more resourceful, they are almost perpetuating the change anyway. So if something in what we have talked about here is interesting or resonates, then please let us know and we can have a conversation about it. You can go on our website and see a few more videos and case studies and testimonial about how this works, but please get in contact and we can take you through a deeper understanding of what this quality of mind is. Thank you for listening.